And I'm like,
yes,
all right.
now we're live. There it is.
It's working now.
You know, it's the buttons on the computer, man. They never do what they want to do.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Only knew some of us who had any sort of computer knowledge, but
yeah, I mean, I
figure out
don't.
when
I'm the
that
last
person
person.
shows
I really shouldn't be running any of this stuff. I'm like barely computer literate.
Some are born great and some have greatness thrust upon them.
maybe that's it. I don't think that's the case, but on that note, let's get started.
All right.
Hey, Dan, this should be the podcast episode 12, Charlie's
right.
Angels edition, or
There we
something
go.
to that effect. Maybe that'll make sense as we continue the show. Hopefully that made sense to you. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Am I still coming in? Okay. You can hear me?
Yeah. I got you good.
All right. Good. Just making sure because I hit a button in between there. I didn't want it to go bad.
Okay.
So what's new, man? We're on Wednesday. It's not Tuesday.
Yeah.
Kind of a
I've
long
been
break.
Yeah, sort of. I mean, I've just been running around doing the same stuff.
Yeah.
Realizing that I am not a person who is skilled at advertising. So,
Oh yeah, like advertising for what?
well, like for my job and business and stuff, it's like I have a hard enough time convincing people, like reaching people for like things that I'm really into, like for like music and stuff. I always feel like I'm annoying people.
Yeah.
So it's like even more so when I have to like, manufacture a client and customer base for something as boring as computer stuff. So
Is that part of your job? Like
sort of
going out there and marketing and advertising, or?
kind of. Well, my job is to bring in as much revenue as possible. And so if it's because everything, it's like a feast or famine thing with my job where like everybody will need a lot for like 2-3 months. And then everybody will be like, oh, yeah, we're pretty much good. And so it's like,
Gotcha.
well, I didn't know that.
I see.
So
You got to upsell, sell, upsell. Come on.
yeah, I am the worst salesman in the world. So
Yeah, I'm not super good at it either. I don't mind telling people my opinions on stuff, but I'm not always just like, oh, hey, by the way, here's my card. I do this also. Would you like to? While
Gil's
I'm here,
eating
can I?
food tonight.
Oh yeah. Oh no, not old Dave. Oh my, I gotta break my legs.
Sometimes I feel like if I ran like an auto body shop, you'd be sitting in your business and you'd be like hoping for like a 10-car pileup on the highway. Like you don't wish calamity. You're like, all right, well, maybe we could have like a movie style pileup where like all the cars wreck, but nobody's killed.
Yeah, just real light human tragedy. Nothing dark.
Emotional trauma. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Anyway.
Fair enough. Well, it's whatever. Is what it is. So, two things we want to talk about. Let's jump into this quickly. And honestly, it's like a week old, so it's stuff that's been brought up and talked about for a little while. But like, in case nobody hears it or has heard about it, that the White House press corps conference with the Biden administration talking about how they think that if you want to spread misinformation on Facebook or any other social media platform, you should be flagged for that. And they're flagging people for misinformation. And also you should be banned from other platforms as well. As in like, that stuff should not be allowed. Just in general.
That's a real big problem. And
that is a real big problem. Like, up until this point, right? I don't think we've talked about it a whole lot. I know we've talked about social media censorship and all that stuff, but the role that the government plays in that's not been totally clear to everybody. So there's been lots of suspicion in my mind, or lots of discussions and stuff that I've listened to. And people are like, well, Facebook is whatever. They're a private company. They can do what they want, obviously. And I would agree with that. As a private company, I have no right to post on Facebook any more than they have a right to come into my house and write something on my refrigerator. But as soon as you're taking directives from the government, especially the federal government, on what you can and cannot post, I don't know, man. I start getting a little starts blurring the lines a little bit. And
It's
that's
hilarious to me how the people in charge don't realize this.
Well,
Like,
yeah.
I mean, it's the type of thing that like I really don't understand how, you know, they don't realize how obtuse they're being. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like nobody. It's kind of like when they were doing you know, the Me Too McCarthyism of 2018, or
Yep.
in 2019 and 20 of like figuring out like who's a racist and who all this kind of stuff, and everybody is
Right.
just like, did nobody read The Crucible? You know what I mean? It's like it's. I mean, we read it in high school, but it's like they don't know. Everybody thinks that it was like, oh well, we're doing the Lord's work, as it
Yeah.
were, and it's like, well, we're gonna sort out the bad people, and it's like, it baffles me how, I mean, the people in the White House, Jen Psaki and all these people, I'm sure they have degrees and experience and stuff, and nobody stops to think that, like, wait a minute, like this communications platform that's basically, like a public utility almost, and they're taking, direct influence from the White House as far as who's bad and who's good. And when you look at the people who are being flagged, based on past history, it's clearly just all of their political opponents.
Yeah.
I mean, and does nobody see the irony in this? It's like, it baffles the mind.
Dude, it would be like if in November or just any time during the Trump administration, like the press secretary was like, we got 12 people that we consistently follow and we're flagging all their stuff. And then we're telling social media companies that they need to get their stuff taken down. They need to be banned across all platforms. They'd be like, you freaking fascist. You freaking
Yeah. This is the
free
kind of
speech,
thing,
man.
this is the kind of thing that people think Trump was going to do.
Right. Yes.
And he never did any of that. He made
No.
fun of people, and he was insulting, and he was generally a dick. But he wasn't
Yes.
trying to use the power of the White House to silence people.
No, even when he was coming after the press corps, I'm sorry, when the president says, I know people probably disagree with this, especially if you're in the press, but like when the president says the press is the enemy of the people, like I happen to agree with that. Like the corporate press is the enemy of the people. So maybe it's just my bias is showing, but he has the right to say anything he wants to. He does not have the right to use the force of law to go
Right.
or he doesn't have the right to use his influence in his position to go to the press corps and say, you can't post this from this writer because this writer's a dick and I don't like him. Now he can say this writer's a dick, I don't like him. He can say that all day long, but he can't go to the New York Times and be like, I'm gonna look, man, we're flagging everything he says, and I want him banned. I want him out of there. I don't want him to post in magazines. I don't want him online. I don't want him in a blog. Like you can't do that crap.
I literally can't believe that they don't realize how crazy they're. It's like, when they had the Patriot Act, and they were like, so basically the government can read anybody's emails and whatever that they want, and without due process and stuff. And people rightly went like, wait a second, does the end justify the means on this? And it's like, and that was even different, right? Because it was like, imagine if Patriot Act was only targeted at like the Democratic Party, and people who were like, Clinton and Gore voters at the time. It's a little bit different. It's not exactly apples to apples because they were going after terrorists and all this, which is its own can of worms. But it's like, imagine if something like the Patriot Act was only targeted at somebody's political enemies, and that's what we're basically looking at here.
Yeah, man.
Except in this case, there's no act, right? They've just decided we're going to do this.
They're just doing it. Yeah. And even like and like Biden, in either a ridiculous, demented stupor or a moment of clarity and honesty, they were like, hey man, what's going on with Facebook? What do you think about that? Like, what do you think about Facebook and the misinformation? It's like, they're killing people. Facebook's killing people. And like, that's literally what the man said. And then Facebook's like, whoa, no. We're not killing people. In fact, the Surgeon General has come back and applauded us for all the work we've done in coordination with
I didn't hear about that part of the story.
Oh, really? Yeah. So he's like on the tarmac or something. It's like a quick off comment kind of thing. He's just like, President Biden, what do you think about the misinformation on Facebook? Anything you have to say? He's like, oh, they're killing people. Nope, killing people.
Okay.
Yep. Nope. There's people. They're unvaccinated and they're killing people, man.
Oh, okay. So that's what I was trying to figure out. Like, okay, what I'm trying to, like, in good faith, try to figure out what it is he was trying to say. So what he was saying was that Facebook is like, like they're carelessly allowing people to spread misinformation that is getting people killed.
Yes, and people
That's
are being
okay,
suckered
that's what he's
for it,
trying to
and
say.
that's why you have to take that. You have to take those posts down and maybe shut those accounts down. And if those accounts are down on Facebook, they need to be down on Instagram. They need to be down on Twitter. They need to be down on whatever else there are. TikTok, I guess. I don't think there's
Yeah.
too many TikTok
I don't know.
political accounts, but I mean, sure there are. But they're like stupid.
But I can't shake the feeling that every time they silence somebody like that, they basically just confirm that crazy person's opinion.
Well, see, and that's what's nuts too, because like
You know what I mean? Because the people who are like, vaccines, man, they're going to come in here and they're going to, and all
Well,
this
like-
kind of stuff. And then you get booted off of Facebook. It's like, see, they wouldn't have booted me off if I wasn't saying something that was right.
well, yeah, right. That's for sure. Like
So
that,
they're not
that's the negative kickback about
none of these
censorship. But anyway.
none of these anti-vaccine people are sitting at home, you know, going off talking about like the 5G or whatever, or even the more mild versions where they're kind of telling all of their friends not to get the vaccine, which in my opinion is kind of careless. But it's like, and then say they do that, you know, and then they get kicked off Facebook. Nobody's sitting back going, you know, this is really giving me a moment of pause here. Maybe maybe I should rethink some stuff. You know, maybe maybe that Fauci guy, you know, maybe he is, you know, America's doctor. You know, I'm gonna take a break. I'm really gonna do some soul searching. I gotta be honest. You know, like nobody's doing that. Everybody's going like it's just making people dig in further.
Dan, they do what I did. I go, holy crap, Dan, they really are turning the frogs gay. Alex Jones is right.
Alex
But it's the
Jones
same-
is one of the most entertaining people in the world.
He really is. But like, how crazy is it though? Like, this stuff's been going on for a couple of years, just but like with like outlandishly nuts people, right? So like, Alex Jones is gone. Like Milo Yiannopoulos, like a bunch of other like really, you know, hot topicy, really flashy,
Yeah.
crazy people online, very bombastic, very flamboyant, maybe even saying dangerous things. I don't know. But those guys were all taken off in coordinated efforts with all the social media platforms,
Right.
Apple included, like, you know, podcasts, like everything. They were YouTube, like, just taken off of every freaking thing.
Yeah.
And now, and everyone's just like, well, you know, those guys they're kind of nuts. So that's okay.
Yeah,
We can
it's
take off-
it's very
we can take
clear.
off the nutty peoples.
Yeah. But it's right. Yeah.
But now it's coming towards, you know, just like, I wouldn't say higher. These people are much. I read the list. There's like 12 people that they mentioned, and maybe it's just the circles I'm not running in. But I didn't know any of the people's names. I didn't know one person on that list. I don't follow them. I've never seen shit they posted. Like, they're not that. I mean, I'm pretty much I'm into this pretty deep. Like my whole Twitter feed is like political stuff. So I don't see, and like I'm no fan of the healthcare regime that we have. So
Yeah.
I would be aware of some of this stuff, and I didn't know who any of these people were.
Yeah.
But I don't
I
know,
mean,
man.
well,
It's
that's
scary.
that's the problem, right? Is that like people like you and me who discuss the concept of this, it's therefore assumed that the only reason we're complaining about it is because we have a particular loyalty to
Right.
whomever it is that, and it's like, no, a person can have a concept that is without having a personal dog in the fight.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So if like, if it was in the other direction, you know, if it was like, say this was 2004 or something, and, you know, the Bush administration, or more specifically, somebody like Dick Cheney or Rumsfeld or whatever, you know,
Yeah.
who are all the puppet masters, but they were sitting there and she's like, you know, we got these people protesting the war, you know, we're just going to find anybody who has ties to like these Muslim groups in various parts of the country. Like, we'd all be sitting there. Well, not me then, because I didn't know what I was talking about, but like
Yeah,
me
me neither,
now was then.
I would have been like, yeah, dude, let's do that.
I'd be like, that's not American of us. Let's,
Correct.
you know, like, right.
yeah, no, agreed. Yeah.
But it would,
And
but somebody would say, "Oh, well, you're saying that you're loyal to the Taliban?" Like, no, I don't have to be loyal to the Taliban to think that this is un-American, infringing upon
no,
people's
you can
rights.
right. You can have principles, and you can hold to those principles, and then disagree with that's what's it. Defend your. I disagree with your right to say it, Dan, but I will defend your right to the death to say it, or whatever. Some
Right.
stupid
Well,
phrase
this is
like
the
that.
problem that you and I have a lot of times, is that like if you point out the emperor's new clothes, it's assumed that you're all the way over here.
Right.
I mean, I don't know how many times I've had to like talk to somebody about something. I was like, look, I'm not a fan of Donald Trump, but you know, and blah 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 blah. Insert opinion, but I have to say that because it's assumed that, you know, if I say something like, well, you know, I have a problem with the fact that the whole media establishment went with this Russia collusion story for years.
Right.
And then it comes to find out that it was based on like self-referential evidence, and it was just terribly flimsy. And they didn't seem at all concerned with the fact that they intentionally misled people for years. And then afterwards, it was like, oh, okay, well, let's move on to the next thing. We'll try to pin them on. And it's like, don't you have a problem with that? It's like, I don't have to be a fan of Donald Trump to like think that that's, I mean, a pretty slippery slope.
Right. Yeah. And the most, yeah, again, and like the infuriating thing with the way it is now is there's no limiting principle. So like misinformation, what about health? Is that the only reason? Is it because it's a healthcare crisis, a pandemic?
Yeah,
Or,
we're gonna
like
get
you said,
we're gonna
like,
get WebMD
you had-
shut down. I mean,
you
how many people have taken the wrong medication because they read about it wrong? They Googled their symptoms.
Oh,
It's like,
good
oh, I have
God, that's a
lupus.
really
I
good
need to,
point.
you know what I mean?
Yeah. But no, just like there's like 4 straight years of Russian collusion, which is a complete lie. Like there's no truth behind it at all, and it's still talked about.
In fact,
Like-
it's highly questionable whether the Russia collusion story in and of itself came from Russia.
Right.
So it's like,
No, so right, that's bonkers, man. But you know the WebMD thing is that's so funny. Like any misinformation, that's the point of information. Like you got to put it out there, and you have to be able to parse it. And unfortunately, there is misinformation that's put out there. But the thing is, though, there's not one person who can be the perfect arbiter of truth. There's just not one. There is no. Well, there is a Department of Truth, and the federal government thinks they are that. But like that's just there's so much hubris in that to say we're going to say what's not true, we're going to say what's allowable, we're going to say what's correct, and that's what you can be exposed to, and that's it.
Yeah.
That is
It's-
that is monstrous.
it's like, you know, this is the kind of thing that gets, you know, somebody like Galileo arrested.
oh,
You know what I mean?
dude,
It's like
that's a really good point too. That's like historically, that's how that crap rolls, man. Like you can't go against the established order, and you can't say things that are against the established truths from the higher ups and the people that wield power. That's what they want. Like, sorry, but information and knowledge and conversation and speech, all that's all tied into being a free person. And you push back against tyranny with that at the very least. That's like the easiest thing you can do, and it's also one of the most potent things you can do. So just once the truth gets out there, doesn't matter if eventually it doesn't matter in this case, even if what they're saying is not true. You can't suppress that channel. You can't suppress that avenue without being a tyrant. You just can't.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, it's a beta move. You know, we talked about this like a long time ago. Like it's a low vibrational insecurity thing, right? Like a person who, and this is not necessarily like beta male, alpha man or woman, whatever, but it's like a person who's about what they are, and they're either
Right.
on their purpose and they're doing their stuff. Presumably, there's going to be like fruit to show for it, and they're not going to be concerned with the opinions of people who are wrong or crazy, because you know the light of day will show those people to be wrong. If you're so
Exactly.
right,
Yeah.
then you know what I mean. Like with the vaccine, you know, like the vaccine kind of like it kind of speaks for itself. You know, like think of the Delta variant, it's sort of spreading around, and there's still cases and stuff, but like. I'm not sure what the exact number is, but like most of the people who are getting sick now are people who were unvaccinated.
Mhm.
So it's like, okay, we'll see right there. That's pretty clear. The vaccine, while maybe it's imperfect or it's the best we got right now, it pretty much works. So that should be enough, right?
No.
You know, like any person can go like, oh, well, people are getting sick now. It's like, yeah, since they didn't get vaccinated, stupid. I mean, so like. The proof's in the pudding. Like if you're so insecure about your thing that you got to like, well, I got to make sure that person doesn't talk. It's like, well, if you're so afraid, you know.
Oh, this is an interesting question though. So like, why? I don't have an answer. This is just strictly rhetorical. I have no like underlying point that I'm gonna like. Haha! Here's my point. Why is it that the campaign to get people vaccinated is only like half successful in the country? Like, what the goal is like 75% by 4th of July, and it's something only like 50% of adults are vaccinated in the country.
I heard it was way more than that.
Oh yeah, what'd you hear? I could be
heard
wrong.
I heard it was like
I mean, you could be wrong, Dan.
maybe it was something with a different age bracket. I heard it was like 80% of eligible adults. Maybe it was like over 35 or something like that. But maybe the vast majority of old people.
Oh yes, yeah, that I would agree with.
Which I mean, which is good because they're the most vulnerable, right? I think the percentage of people who are vaccinated drops as you go down into age bracket, right?
Yes. No, yeah, I would agree. I guess it's an overall statistic thing. I wonder if we can find this. Probably not. I'm not.
Well,
good
I mean, it's one of those things. I mean,
fly.
if people don't want to get vaccinated, I mean, that's their choice, I guess. That's the beauty of the vaccine, is that the main person that you hurt by not getting vaccinated is yourself.
Is you. Yeah.
So it's like wearing a seatbelt. You know, I think seatbelt laws are kind of dumb. You know, It's like if you don't want to wear a seatbelt and you want to kill yourself, I mean, that's your own foolishness, right? So,
Yeah, I agree. So just in general, I'd seen this stat a few days ago. So this was on probably ABC News. 56% ages 12 and up are fully vaccinated.
12 and up. Okay, maybe maybe the version I heard was like 35 or 30 or something.
Yeah, maybe
it
so.
was
Well,
at
I
the
don't
time.
know. Ridiculous. So, but either way, the goal was to get like 70%. Whatever, 12 and up, 12 to 18. Those are kids, and that's a different thing. But
Well,
like,
it's a boy who cried wolf thing, isn't it? Like.
well, it's just interesting. So again, I'm not arguing for or against anybody getting the vaccine, but the proof is in the pudding, like you said. But I don't know. Only half the country's vaccinated. It's weird.
Well,
I don't know what to make about it. Is it because these 12 people on Facebook? Or I don't know, man. Like,
I don't think, if I were to guess, and of the people I know who aren't vaccinated, they're not dumb. They're smart people. But if I had to guess, I would say it's probably because the source of information about telling us the vaccine is like this perfect panacea for everything, is also the same source that was giving us all of this other crap and fear mongering and all for the past 15 months. So while I don't necessarily subscribe to the opinion, a person could be forgiven for being like, if they were watching what was going on for the past year and a half since March of 2020 and being like, okay, so the same people that told us all of these conflicting pieces of information and all of this stuff and that wanted to shut everything down. Okay, so they're the same people that are being like, vaccinate or die,
right.
It's like you could be forgiven for being like, you know what? Hold on. I'm going to take my chances, like, especially if maybe they hadn't personally known anybody who had the virus or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I don't agree with it, but I don't think it's as crazy as, one might make them out to be.
No, I don't think
the mainstream media and all of the powers that be, they have to be realistic that they've been saying all of this crap, and then they magically want to go and say something, and then they're surprised when people don't believe them. It's like,
oh, dude. So I got to find this thing. I should have sent it to you earlier. I didn't anticipate going in. Well, I mean, we're sort of jumping around vaccine stuff, but like, wasn't going to be like real specific. But there's like this great montage of the 20 Democrat electoral candidates talking mad shit about the vaccine.
oh yeah,
like, it all culminates with like Kamala Harris at the end of like, no, I will not take a vaccine I will not take Donald Trump's vaccine. I will not, and under no steps, I will not. Nope. It's just crazy. So like, it's just funny for these people to politicize it again. So it is kind of, I think it's what you're saying. So they're listening to people, say the most insane things for a year and a half, 2 years, 4 years. And then leading up to this, even in regards to the vaccine, like, I wouldn't take the vaccine under Donald Trump. Guy's rushing this thing. He's going to kill people. It's crazy. I'd rather have COVID than take this vaccine.
Yeah.
And then when it's a Democrat and the vaccine comes
once they get in office, it's like, look how quick we got the vaccine, guys.
Look how good it is. No one even gives Donald Trump credit, man. This is the Trump vaccine, baby.
Yeah,
MAGA,
I mean,
MAGA.
it's not like Trump was
MAGA in my veins.
It's not like Trump was sitting in the lab, like working with test tubes and using a centrifuge. Like, we're gonna make this vaccine good. Come on, guys. Obviously,
this is the greatest vaccine
take
ever.
Credit for it, but
a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Mix it all up.
Like he's Willy Wonka.
Oh God, that's so funny. I don't know. It's just infuriating, man. Like, the whole thing, it blew my mind when I saw that. I was like, wow, that's crazy. That's like just straight up. And because like the lady literally said, like Psaki really said, she's just like, well, no, you should be banned, and like you're gonna be banned across all the board. We support that. We want you off. Just get out of here. No more public discourse for you.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, and then if you disagree, then it's like, well, 1-6, man.
Oh yeah, dude. Oh, dude. Oh, there's all sorts of stuff about that I want to talk about, and like, not just that, but like the Gretchen Whitmer, the governor of Michigan, who was the kidnapping plot. Have you read anything about that?
Oh, I heard about that briefly.
Oh man, there's just so much. It's just so much FBI involvement and informants and like people riling up people and getting them to the point of where they break the law, and then they bust them like they did with like 12-year-old Arab kids in like Dearborn after 9/11. So yeah. So are you a little sympathizer? Let me get you involved in this plot. So you have federal agents that bring people to the point of breaking the law, And then when they're past the point, they go, all right, arrested, sucker.
That
got
sounds
you.
like entrapment.
I don't know how that's not entrapment, but it's crazy, man. There's all sorts of news stories coming out about the Whitmore case where the people that were co-conspirators were all federal agents that were just riling these assholes up to try to have a plot to to kidnap and just kidnap the governor of Michigan. But I can't believe or understand how that's legal. I mean, it's certainly immoral, but it's
it's. I mean, I was thinking recently about, and this might be a whole other discussion, but like the idea of 1-6 being like a false flag kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think there's any evidence to this, and it's probably crazy. But if it came out later that this was true, I would be like, I had a feeling. Like the idea, because it's still kind of a mystery how like the Capitol Police, how all that went down. Because it's not, these people were not well coordinated revolutionaries. You know what I mean?
No.
They were not like people who were clearly about a purpose, so, and they weren't high functioning individuals for the most part, as far as I'm aware. So how did they get that far? It seems crazy to me. So like, I don't know, is if I found out later on that like somebody at the top was like, why don't we, let them have their fun, let them go in there, and look, it's going to make our job way easier because
we're not gonna push back. No fighting. You don't want
because
mob on
once
your
they
hand.
do that, it becomes an insurrection. Then it's like we can use that to browbeat anybody who doesn't agree with us with anything we want to do for the whole following administration.
Well, dude, now it's super scary, man.
I mean, that's exactly what the Nazis did in like 1935 with the Reichstag. They burned their own headquarters and they blamed it on the communists as an excuse to like, we need to confiscate and all this, and they rounded up a bunch of people and
right.
Like, so there's a story. I mean, I'm not saying they're the same as the Nazis, obviously, but like, it's not like it's a foreign concept. People, that's why you look at those crazy, the 9/11 truthers. They think that like 9/11 was an inside job. They think that like the government knew about it and they either caused it or at least allowed it to happen as an excuse to go to war in the Middle East to protect the oil interests. So that, I mean, obviously I think that's pretty crazy, but I don't think, I mean, it's certainly possible. But I don't think there's any evidence for it. So, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I said this. Here's the thing. I said the same thing last year about the lab leak theory. I remember sitting outside thinking like, I'm not saying there's any evidence for this because, I haven't said or anything, but if you told me, we found out a year from now that like this thing escaped from a lab because of some crappy safety protocols, I'd be like, I believe that. And then now it's like the prevailing theory. So
yeah, full circle. People on Facebook and Twitter were deleted. Their accounts were busted because they would promulgate that kind of stuff. Yeah. So now, just based on the current regime, the current rules, the current thinking, that was true, and people lost their social media presence because they uttered truth, and then people said nope. People in charge, the people with power, said nope, that's not true. We don't want that out there. We can't have that out there. But now it's out there, and now it's fine. It's that goes without saying. That is all fucked up. Sorry, there's just no way to. It's completely insane, and nobody wants that power wielded against them. So you shouldn't wield that power against others.
The fact that people seem strangely blasé about it simply because it happens to be come from a side of the aisle they agree with. I'm like, are you that dense? I don't know.
Man.
I mean,
I don't know. That I think that's very striking as well. I agree with you. The either the lack of caring or the outright cheering for and applauding, going, yeah, this is great. Yeah, get these people out of here, man.
I mean, we've talked about it before. It's like a ref at a basketball game that's clearly just making bad calls. You know what I mean? Like maybe he's got an eye patch, or something. It's like
the Harlem Globetrotters always travel. Why don't they call it?
But nobody seems to notice it when he's calling things in favor of their team.
Right. Yeah. It's true. Yep. It's the Brady rule, man. I hate Tom Brady now. I loved him. Now I hate him. The Tuck rule, disagree with it. If anyone's listening to this, they'll know what that means. I know you don't know what the Tuck rule is.
I don't know what that means.
Don't worry about it. You're better off. You're fine.
Okay.
Yeah, man. I don't know. So I'm glad we riffed on that for like 30 minutes. I had to get that off my chest. I hadn't talked to anybody about it other than just sharing it with you. But yeah, it's nuts. That's just bonkers. But this is the times we live in. These are the times.
Yeah.
Want to pivot to a silly thing?
Sure.
All right. Yes. Charlie's Angels. I've never watched anything. I've never watched a Charlie's Angels episode. I think I saw one of the remake movies.
I think I saw maybe like 5 minutes of it. It was pretty insane.
Yeah. I think Tom Green was in it. I remember that.
I think Crispin Glover was like a bad guy.
Wasn't Bill Murray in it? Wasn't he the
Charlie?
guy? The guy? Yeah, Charlie.
Maybe.
Is that it? He's Charlie. Bill Murray was Charlie, right?
I don't know.
I'm assuming so.
My knowledge of that 20-year-old movie is not high.
We're not really here to talk about Charlie's Angels. But
No.
I'll let you introduce the topic since you kind of mentioned it.
Oh,
And
well, I just thought it would be, I don't know why I was thinking about this, but like,
yeah,
the
why
role-
were you thinking about it? Do you remember what came up? Damn, sorry.
I think
On
I
the
saw
spot.
like a trailer for the Black Widow movie, and my mind
That's
was wandering.
the Marvel
Yeah,
Scarlett Johansson.
the
movie.
long overdue Black Widow movie. And it's like, I was just thinking about it, like how the role of like women in action movies has sort of morphed over time, specifically like when they're the star, you know, and like it's interesting to think about like the versions that work and that become like movies that everybody goes, oh, that was great. Wow, and what a great character, you know, and the versions of that go, oh, that was just lame, you know. And so like,
All right, let me preface my whole
go ahead.
my whole perspective here. I don't care about action movies that much. In fact, I don't watch a lot of movies, period. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm just not that cultured. It's not my thing. I don't know why. As I've gotten older, I've watched less and less movies. So I have thoughts. I'll share them with you as they come up, but I don't have a very definite opinion on things.
Sure.
But I'm open to the conversation, if that makes sense. And I'm not opposed to watching movies. I'm just, I don't know, man.
You got a lot of stuff going on. You got a lot.
I feel like I have better things to do with my time.
Yeah, no, I dig it.
I'm more watching like Trolls and kids movies and Dog with a Blog and a bunch of Disney stupid crap. That's what my life is.
Those troll movies are not bad. They're kind of
The first one's
cool.
pretty good.
Yeah.
The soundtrack is pretty fire.
What was the one where they had all the different? Was it the second one, World Tour, where they had all the different little islands that had different styles
Yes.
of music?
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
It's kind of goofy and it's fun. Anyway,
Hey man,
all right,
I'm all
so-
about it. All right, so back to it though.
Well, it's just like before I don't even know where to start, but like
Okay.
you know, you could start with like, you know, since you know everything used to be run by men, like all the stories were male centric, right? So you got all the sort of the classic heroes' journeys, you know, the sort of Joseph Campbell archetypes that Star Wars was based on.
Okay.
And the women in those movies were always just like they were the reward. You know, they were
Right.
the damsel in distress that like, look, the hero does this, and therefore he gets the prize, which is this woman here.
Yeah, like
which is-
even back through like mythology and no, I'll just start there. Like mythology, generally male centric, conquering, badass dudes
Right. Which
with counteracting female leads, but not like the overarching. It's still
Yeah.
Zeus. Zeus is
The
still
one-
Zeus.
the one exception to that would be, now that I'm thinking about it, would be the Odyssey. So Odysseus's wife Penelope is like a total badass.
Right.
So while he's spending 10 years trying to get home from the Trojan War, she's back home kind of protecting his land and stuff. And she's fending off all of these guys who are trying to marry her and take his kingdom or whatever.
Oh,
and
and
then-
she.
So
fending.
so she's a very capable person who has her own agency, who is as integral to the outcome of the story as Odysseus is.
Fair enough. Okay.
So that would be an exception to the rule. But it's like thinking about like some of the like movie characters like that were pivotal. I mean, like Princess Leia would be a huge one
Okay.
because like I guess she would be a good example of how to do it right. Because you know, I've always said like she's the smartest character in all of Star Wars. Like she's the only person who doesn't screw up. Like everybody else has all this learning to do, right? Like Luke starts as like this whiny little kid. Han Solo's like kind of a rogue who doesn't really believe in anything. But from the very first scene of the very first movie, Princess Leia is like, no, I already know what I'm about, and I've got my purpose here, and you all are a bunch of fools. You got to catch up to me, you know. And she never backs down from anything. So like throughout the entire series, she always knows what to do.
Yep.
So I think that was a surprisingly like forward-thinking version. You know, George Lucas could have easily written this princess character as kind of like, oh help, you know. But he did,
like a Princess Buttercup from
yeah.
what's it?
But even she was
Princess
like,
Bride.
you know, she had her own.
She had her own stuff.
I guess
She-
the
she-
issue
she
the
had
issue
stuff
is
going
like whether the women in the movies, you know, have their own what they call their own personal agency, whether they're making their own choices and are they contributing, right? You know, somebody like what's her face from Transformers, who was basically kind of there to be an object somebody to be rescued. Megan Fox.
Yes.
So
Right.
like, she doesn't really do a whole lot in the movie. She drives the plot in the sense that when she's in danger, the main characters have to go rescue her.
Uh-huh.
Right. So I think it's interesting, like when you had like slasher movies, 70s and 80s, it was usually like female protagonists.
Yes,
know,
that is interesting.
So
Yeah, that's the first thing that I was like,
people have written-
Halloween, like Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah. So there's a whole line of thinking like, is this actually sort of a misogynistic thing? Because it's like, because women are considered to be like weaker and maybe like inferior or something. So it's scarier when they're in danger, as opposed to like, say if Michael Myers was chasing around like, Arnold Schwarzenegger or Lee Marvin or, some sort of, or Charles Bronson, it's less scary than if it's, 18-year-old Jamie Lee Curtis who's never fought anybody in her life. As a horror movie thing, it kind of makes sense, but I guess that makes it maybe more exciting when a small, a supposedly weak character, finds the stones or the bravery to defeat like something more,
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, but there's good horror movies where the male is the protagonist and also has to ward off, and you're not like,
True.
he's not a Schwarzenegger. He's like a Kurt Russell in like The Thing. You know what I mean? He's just like a
Regular
guy
person.
regular person, like the regular Joe. So maybe that's it. It's the regular Joe aspect. So here's like a quick thought I had, and like I was just trying to think about this a lot. So like I don't know. So like in my mind, like we were kind of joking or not talking about like Sarah Connor, like Terminator movies.
Oh,
And
I'll
then,
get
like,
to her.
No, that's fine. But then like you already said it. You said it earlier, like Schwarzenegger. So in my mind, I'm like Commando.
Yeah.
That movie is retarded. It's awesome.
It's retarded.
It's so funny. But that movie is not realistic at all. Even with a dude. So like even with a Schwarzenegger. Oh yeah. So you
and the women in that movie are completely pointless. I mean, Alyssa Milano is just there to be rescued.
Right, but like even the Schwarzenegger character is completely unrealistic. It's just not realistic. Like there's no way that guy's going and doing all that. Sorry.
Yeah, it's dumb.
No, it is dumb. Like, and then like contrast that maybe to Rambo. A little bit more
Rambo's
convincing, a little bit more believable.
A complicated case, but yeah.
Well, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but I think it's more realistic, and like because he's crazy and he's like he could probably kill.
It depends on if you're talking about First Blood Rambo versus sequel Rambo, but yeah.
Nah, I'm going with First Blood Rambo. Sorry, I'm not going with the Rambo series, original Rambo.
Yeah,
right. But
original Rambo was a believable dude. He was like this.
Yeah,
crazy person.
But I remember, like, we were watching, like, I was on a family vacation. And we were watching, like, we went to this like cabin or something, and like Commando was there. I was like, let's watch this. We did like a body count. It was like 400 people. We're like, there's no way this guy killed 400 people in a 32-hour period. That's ridiculous. Like, it's such an absurd movie, and like, it's such an unrealistic representation of masculinity or a. That sounded so beta when I said that. But what I mean, like, it's an unrealistic action. I mean, but it's the action you want, but it's not realistic.
It's like a stereotype for like 7-year-olds. You know what I mean? Like the same kind of mentality of where like He-Man comes from.
It's very stereotypical of males, and isn't that? I mean, that's not in this day and age.
There's also a fascinating gay subtext of Commando because like, which people have talked about, which I'm not an expert on it, but if you look at the way the bad guy is dressed, he's wearing like this chainmail thing. He's got like a mustache and everything. He's really obsessed with his knife and doing stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know if that was intentional or not, but it's about that movie is about as gay as Top Gun.
That's fair.
You know what I mean?
That's a whole other topic.
I don't know.
Let's get on gay 80 movies themes that we can we can bring up. All right, so back to the ladies. So
so I think the two best archetypes that I can think of, or you said so Sarah Connor and Ellen Ripley. And I think the reason these two characters work is because what they weren't just taking
for the people who are listening.
Okay, Terminator and Aliens.
Alien, right?
Okay. So the point being that
all three of them. Thank you.
I think the reason that those are enduring characters is because they become like action heroes without losing the spirit of what makes them like a traditional woman in a sense. So there's a criticism that like, especially with a lot of these sort of modern movies, is where they take a movie that like a spy movie. Like there's a whole bunch of these action movies, and they just take a character and they go, all right, how about this? How about that character is actually a 90-pound woman? and then everything else is the same. There's no the fact that she's a woman doesn't influence the story at all. You know, she's just beating up guys that are twice her size and doing ninja moves, and she never gets hurt. And it's like, okay, well, that's not really believable, you know. So I think, like you said, the everyman quality. There's like, you know, what made Sarah Connor a really cool character that everybody liked was to watch her transformation from a regular person, and she was motivated, you know, by the fact that she was a mother to become this badass character, but she didn't lose that part of herself. You know, they weren't just pasting on male attributes onto a smaller frame. And I think that's
she
why
was super feminine and not super feminine, but super damsel in distressy.
She was just a normal person
in the first Terminator movie.
Yeah. And then in the intervening years, I mean, with, you know, some PTSD trauma and stuff,
right? And,
you know, she turns into this warrior person, and that has its pros and cons too, because she kind of loses herself a little bit. But that's what makes it such a cool character. It feels like a real person.
Yep.
So, you know, I think that's why people look back and they go, oh, "This is such a great character," and that's also why I don't know if you saw the last Terminator movie from like last year or whatever. Why that movie was so horrible, because they did all this retconning of her character, and it kind of messed it up a little bit.
Really?
But so it took away some of the stuff that made her strong to begin with. But anyway, and so the other example would be like Ripley from the Alien movies.
Yep.
In the sense that what makes her interesting is that she becomes this action hero character, and without losing the part of her femininity or what makes her a woman. And in fact, that actually makes her better at being a hero, because it gives her more compassion. It gives, you know what I mean? So like the first movie was written, like, I remember reading like all the characters in that movie were just written with like generic last names, and any of them could be either male or female. So it just so happened that when they cast the movie, they were like, "Oh, Sigourney Weaver, she's reading for this part. All right, well, yeah, she's great. Let's do that." And then there was Veronica Cartwright was this other character in there, and so as they were doing it, like because all these people were talented actors, they brought with it their own sort of sense of character to it, and then sort of by a sort of a happy accident, Ripley became this like feminist icon, because there was like her, you know, like she goes back and she saves the cat, you know, and all that kind of stuff. And then especially in the second movie, which again is also James Cameron, because he's really into this kind of stuff, he gave her this whole motherly backstory symbolism where she finds the young girl, and then that's helps her motivate. And then she becomes sort of a mother figure to these other helpless Marines who are kind of losing their shit while everything's going down. And then it becomes like, and then it puts all that subtext right on the screen, because she's fighting the mother alien, and then it turns into this showdown, and it's very satisfying.
Oh, and then later she becomes like the mother of aliens, because like the alien, like she births one, and
they kept that going.
That was number 3. That was a weird one.
So
as she's falling into the incinerator.
Yeah, they were trying to continue that metaphor, you know.
Well, yeah.
So
it's a very sexist metaphor, Dan. Thank you for bringing it up.
Well,
no, I'm just kidding. No, I think you're onto something there. I mean, that's. I mean, you're right, because like you joked earlier, like I got a 90-pound woman kicking the shit out of like 400-pound men. Like it's just not. It's not believable. Yeah. I mean, it's barely believable for a dude. Like, but like, and it's only barely believable, and it's fantasy then, and it's entertainment then. But when you just copy and paste female on male, it's just like this strains too much credulity. And I don't think that's a unfair characterization. Like I think that's what happens in the box office. I think it shows that. Like you do, like you mentioned, you were going to talk about like this one movie. I was going to watch it and I couldn't watch it because I didn't have time, and I'm old and I fell asleep. So we're going to watch that Mad Max movie with Charlize Theron, but she also has that Atomic Blonde movie, which looks freaking stupid. Like
Atomic Blonde actually isn't as dumb as it looks.
All right, fair enough. But is it believable?
Because at least her character is a super spy. So it's believable that she can do all the stuff that she can do.
All right, I guess you can throw super spy onto anything, but like
that movie's actually really interesting though. Like it's a lot less John Wick action movie and a lot more like.
Is it okay?
There's like context of like the Berlin Wall falling down. There's like 8 different versions of 99 Left Balloons in the movie.
All right.
So there's some cool stuff in there, but what makes Mad Max interesting, and it's sort of a spoiler alert, but like the movie.
I'll still watch it and won't care.
Oh, it's great. But
no, I do want to watch it.
It marks, I guess, a turning point in the sense that like Mad Max isn't really the main character in his own movie. So all of the plot of that movie is set in motion by Charlize Theron's character. She's the one who makes the decision. I'm going to rescue these women who are basically like these sex slaves from this warlord guy, and I'm going to take them to like this oasis place far away across the wasteland. And Max is just sort of along for the ride. He doesn't care about anything. And so like basically every Mad Max movie follows the same formula. Max is kind of just doing his own thing. He doesn't particularly care. And then he meets a group of people and he decides to have compassion and help people. And so in this movie, Charlize Theron is driving the whole plot. She has way more spoken lines. Max has like 8 lines in the whole movie. And so then he basically decides to come along with her on her journey. And then he kind of, he's more of a brawler action hero because in this movie, she only has 1 arm and 1 leg. No, she has 2 legs, but only 1 arm. She has like a robot arm. It's pretty neat. Anyway, and so like, but at the end of the movie,
I'm already straining credulity, Dan.
Okay, it doesn't matter. The point being that like, it's sort of her story, and Max is kind of along for it. He doesn't actually affect the plot that much, other than just helping, which I guess could be considered as like progress. If you're the kind of person who's like, why are the women not making the decisions in their own character? Like, well, here's a movie where the guy's name is the title of the movie, but the female character is driving the plot, but she's doing it without losing the essence of who she is as a human being. She's not necessarily a mother in the movie, but she's, you know what I mean? Like inherently feminine character.
She's concerned about the
she's a protector character.
apparently.
She's using her judgment. And then there's a couple of lines in there, like, well, I have to get into the weeds, but like, so they go and they find this other like group of hermit women at the end of the movie. And they're like, who's this guy? And he's like, who are these dudes? There's like Max and this one other dude. She's like, yeah, they're reliable. Like, she doesn't introduce them by name. She doesn't even know their names, but like, she doesn't say who they are. For her purposes, all the men matter to her are they reliable? Right. And I thought that was like, if the movie wasn't as good as it was, that would kind of annoy me as a little bit of like a kind of like a blue-haired feminist kind of point. But because the characters are so well drawn, I'm like, oh, that makes sense in this world, because in the context of Mad Max, it was men who destroyed the world. It was the hubris of like the male, the nuclear war and all this kind of stuff. It's always men who are causing all the fighting. So, I guess the women could be forgiven for being like, what, men screwed all this up. Why don't we why aren't we in charge a little bit? So, I mean, there's a whole feminist angle to that. But those 3 movies, I think, are examples of when it's done right.
God creates man. Sorry, I forget where it goes after that. Woman inherits the earth. That's where it lands.
Yeah.
So I know you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. So that was my question for you. So where it works, it's not explicitly stated.
Yeah.
Maybe. So, and where it doesn't work, you're just like girl power. Ooh.
Yeah.
Like, because that so I've
or
seen
you get butthurt like Ghostbusters, where they just like, why don't we do the same thing with all women, and then it doesn't work, and they're like, well, the only reason this didn't do well is because of these guys living in their mom's basement or don't like women. It's like, no. Nerd guys have been very accepting of women characters for a long time. See examples A, B, and C.
Yeah.
Movies, there are plenty of male-centric movies that are also crap.
For sure. No, so that was my thing. Like, I again, not my space. I don't get into the movies too deep on this kind of stuff. But like, I've seen people criticize the Ghostbusters movie. I made jokes about that because I thought it looked stupid. It was just a dumb. But I hate reboots. Reboots are just terrible. And like, just to be like, all right, we're gonna, like you said, we're gonna plaster. We're gonna copy and paste 4 vaginas on this to replace Bill Murray. Come on, man. And that's just not gonna happen. So when you do that, and like you're kind of forcing a cultural message a little bit, to some degree, of course you are, and this just is what it is. And the director said that they're like, yeah, we want it all women. That's what we're doing. Or like even with Scarlett Johansson out on the new Marvel movie, like just not that the movie itself has these undertones. Maybe it does, or I haven't seen it. Is it a movie? Is it a movie, or is it like a series?
No, it's a movie.
It's a movie. But like I've heard interviews, she's like, because like the obligatory question is just like, oh, you're a woman. What's it like to be a woman in a lead role in a man's planet? Oh, you're so oppressed. She's like, oh yeah, totally. No, it's so unfair to be a woman. You have to struggle every day. It's like, you made like $50 million last year. Like, don't freaking talk to me about being oppressed, Scarlett Johansson. But like, I see that, or I feel that cultural tension, and like, I don't want to like, I don't know. That could be an unfair bias on people's part to be like, I don't want that bullshit in the movie. I just want you to be the woman in the movie. And if you're in a convincing woman in the movie, that's awesome. You know, it's funny because like not funny, but like Sarah Connor's a great one, Ripley's a great one. And like I immediately, because we were just generally thinking about stuff, I was like Kill Bill. I was like freaking
Right.
that the bride is an absurd character. It's absurd. Doesn't matter if you're a man, doesn't matter if you're a woman. Everything that person does is completely fake, can never happen. But that's what Tarantino was doing. It's like one of those blood.
Yeah, Tarantino's genius at that.
Shogun movies, man. It's an absurd story. It doesn't matter if she's a woman. There are things that happen to her because she's a woman that make the story more interesting.
Right. That's literally how Tarantino describes it. He was on Rogan the other day and he was talking about that movie. It's like, yeah, well, it's a little bit scarier because we're afraid for women. I mean, let's just look. Sorry.
Well, yeah, but there's a kid involved. Like she gets raped. Like she's pregnant in the second one, or like at the end, and like all that stuff. Like, but that's all.
The movie is ridiculous, but her character is not.
Right. Like, there's no way any human being could do what she did. Like, she like slaughters like 78 samurais in one room. It's crazy. It's unbelievable. It's completely unbelievable.
But it's still cool.
But that movie's not pretentious, and she's a great character.
Yeah.
But it's not. And like, I don't even.
Well, I think it's because what they're doing is they're not just doing the same thing that a guy would do, but doing it with a woman. They're doing her version of it. Because she's a human being. And I think that's the problem. It's like, here's an example of something worse. Like, so like The Hangover came out and then I don't know if it was related. Maybe it was already developed, but then like Bridesmaids comes out like 2 years later and the trailers made it seem,
the same movie.
Well, the trailers made it seem like it's going to be, it's just a hangover with chicks, whatever. But then when you watch that movie, you realize it's not the same movie.
Trailers don't actually represent the movie, Dan. Come on.
Come on. Well, I remember I think that was part of the fun bait and switch of that movie because like halfway through, like, we're going to Vegas, and they're doing all this stuff. And then the main character kind of freaks out and they don't go to Vegas. And then it turns into this weird, like awkward character drama, Right. And so I think
I've heard that movie's pretty funny.
It's great. And part of the reason it's great is not because the writing and the acting is really good, but because they don't just say, oh, well, true equality means we do the same thing that the men does. And they were like, no, that's not what that means. What it means is we're going to do our own thing and try to be as good at it as we can.
Like one of them wakes up at like Ronda Rousey's house and she's like fighting a jaguar. I'm like, no, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
You're not Ed Helms. You can't do that.
Yeah.
Is that Ed Helms? No, that's that guy. I think it was.
So it's like saying it's like a separate and equal kind of thing,
Right.
Like it's equality doesn't mean the same thing. It could mean,
I think that's where it would frustrate me if I were to watch a movie and I would run into that. I'd be like, this is so stupid. This would never happen. And it's like, obviously it would never happen. In fact, I run into that with a lot because like my family loves freaking like action movies. Like when we watch, like when all my family's in town, we're like, we watch this stupid freaking Jason Statham movie. I was just like, oh my God, it's this guy. I was like, I hate all these movies. I'm sorry. Like, I don't care. And like, Sally's like, what's he from? I was like, he's from so many stupid movies. She's like, from Snatch. I was like, oh no, Snatch is great. Snatch is a good movie. That's not the kind of movie. That's the kind of movie I like. It's like this witty, crazy, super, maybe even super violent and weird and crazy, just unpredictable movie. Not like, I'm part of a heist. And
it's
then
like all the Liam Neeson movies that come out where he's like,
Liam Neeson's
like,
been very
typecast. He's 60 and he's still kicking ass. And then like 5 years later, it's like, he's 65 and still kicking ass.
So funny. It's like Taken was a great movie.
Yeah, that first one was
really good movie and believable. And they're like, now Liam Neeson's like, I do Taken 17 times, and like I do it with wolves, and I do it with ambassadors, and I do it with clowns. I'm like, okay, all right, I get it. All right, you were Dark Man. That's great. Whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. Actually, so I don't really like action movies. That's just not my thing. They're just silly.
Maybe you just need to watch the good action movies.
No, I know, but like, it's funny too because like
there's a lot of bad ones.
Alien's not it is an action movie.
Well, Alien is like a horror movie,
right? A horror sci-fi movie. That's different. I don't know, man.
Aliens isn't really by today's standards. Aliens is not really that. I mean, there's not
no. Obviously, by today's standards,
it's like a tension thriller sci-fi kind of thing.
Right.
But it works because all those people in that movie are believable. And actually, to your point though, like you remember in Aliens, there's Jeanette Goldstein's character Vasquez. the like tough like Hispanic
the
chick.
badass, like Hispanic. Yep.
Yeah, but like she's not just a character. I mean, she's believable because she's ripped, and it's like, all right, well, in the future, yeah, okay, it's an integrated military. She looks like she can handle herself.
Sure.
You know, she's a Jewish woman playing a Hispanic character, but that's not beside the point. But
Oh, really?
her name is Goldstein.
Oh,
But you know, she was John Connor's foster mom in Terminator 2. Same, you remember?
oh, nice.
Same actress. She shows up in a lot of
Yeah.
movies, like a little bit part.
She
But
did
anyway.
not. They did not end up well. She shouldn't have answered the door. Oh, that's
But
so
again,
funny. I
she
didn't
would be an
realize that.
example.
That's
Well,
cool.
okay, so James Cameron loves these. I think he's probably one of the people that nails these feminine characters. Same thing with The Abyss.
Oh yeah, dude. Good
So
one.
he
Yeah.
he said that he based Mary Elizabeth her characters on basically on his ex-wife Gayla Hurd, the producer lady. He's like, she's the smartest person in the movie. You know, Ed Harris, who's supposedly the main character, you know, he's tough and he's a man's man. He's an engineer or whatever. But like, he never stopped loving his ex-wife. She's like the one who built everything. She's smart.
Yep.
And she doesn't back down for anybody, but she's able to do that. And he doesn't feel threatened at all. You know, these are like people who are like secure of themselves, you know? And it's like one person being their best self doesn't automatically mean somebody else has to go down,
Sure.
you know? So I think those are examples of like how to do it right. I think
That's good. The Abyss is such a good movie.
it's really good.
Really good.
Unfortunately, the version that's on Amazon is like the shorter version.
Aw.
The longer version where it's way better is you have to go to sail the high seas to find that version.
Yeah, so like I think an example of the pushback that I've seen and not experienced, because again, I don't really watch action movies, was the Captain Marvel movie.
Oh yeah.
But like, and again, and full disclosure, I hate all Marvel movies. I'm not into
Okay.
that at all. Maybe hate's a strong word. Don't like almost any of them. But the what's her name? Brie
Larson.
Larson. Interview circuit, super liberal, super feministy, super whatever. And that's
Yeah.
fine. Do what you want, man. But I think people read that into the movie. And I get it, but that's what's so stupid. It's a superhero movie. She has superhuman powers.
Yeah, it's all a power fantasy.
It's fake. It could be whatever the hell you want. Like, there's a Howard the Duck out there. There's a talking duck. Who gives a shit? Like, that's a thing. Like, either you accept it or you don't. But like, when you try to shoehorn a message into it, that's when I think people get
Right.
pissy. And
Yeah.
maybe that's not fair. I don't know,
Well,
man.
no,
maybe
I
it
mean,
is.
you're
I
not-
don't know.
Well, you're not wrong. I mean, I think there's a reason that, well, if you ask like the powers that be, well, why did audiences respond to all these other Marvel movies and they didn't respond to Captain Marvel? Well, you know, there's a lot of internalized misogyny and patriarchy. And
We
I'm
didn't
like,
make a shitty movie.
I was like, how about like, well, there's part of the reason that like everybody loved Scarlett Johansson's character and it took them till 2021 to make her movie. But it's like everybody loved her. Why didn't you make the Black Widow? It was like, no, but they had a whole plan there where they needed Brie Larson's
Yeah,
character.
yeah.
So they made her movie and then they made a miscalculation because Brie Larson is kind of an inherently unlikable person. So, you know, and it was like, you know,
Like
she's just,
in real life, you mean? Or just
well,
you
but
mean,
like in the interviews, like
actor-wise?
she
Yeah.
just like, I don't know if she was always that way or maybe like the Disney machine, you know, Kathleen Kennedy and some of these people got to her and they're like, you got to be strong. You can't take any crap from these people. So there's like these interviews where like she's hanging out with all the Chris's, Hemsworth, Evans and Pratt. And, you know, she's making all these cracks. And anytime they like kind of gently chide, she's like, what are you trying to say? You're trying to insult me or something like that. You know what I mean? And it's just like, we're just having fun, you know, like, whereas if
I'm
you
Chris
watch videos,
Pratt, man.
where Scarlett Johansson hangs out with all these guys, they all get along like they're best friends because, you know, she's secure in herself. And so, you know, it's,
No, it's so funny because like I like Scarlett Johansson, like in like the 3 movies I can think of, which is like
Yeah,
Ghost
she's
World,
fantastic.
Lost in Translate. Is it Lost in Translation? Is that the Bill Murray movie?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that one. And there's probably another one. But like that was like, but like, whatever. She doesn't have to be an action hero. And maybe she's a great action hero. I really don't care.
Brie Larson isn't a terrible actress. She just, I don't know.
I
She
liked
was a good
her.
one.
Wasn't she in the? She was in one of those Kong ones, the Skull Island.
The
Was she
first
in
Kong.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
She
was
didn't
cool.
really have to act a lot. She just kind of
No, but
you know?
still, you know what I mean. But the point is, it was great. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a funny topic. So like, but yeah, it's so funny because like if some people are just like, this girl is completely unrealistic. It could never happen. This is so stupid. I would agree. But like I would say that with like 98% of all action movies. But like
Yeah.
it is when I think you plaster on some kind of socially justice warrior feminist thing on it. And like even if you just make you make one stupid little joke in a movie, you're just gonna go, so stupid things about this. This is so dumb. Why can't you just leave that shit out of it?
Well-
Like if you want to make a good, convincing action movie and you want to put a woman in there, she's gonna have she's gonna have female interpretations of how things are going on around her. She's gonna have female problems that go on it, and she's gonna have female reactions. That's a natural thing because female and males are different. I know that's a very controversial thing to say, and like today's zeitgeist, but like that's a thing. And
Well,
like you should write movies accordingly, man.
Yeah. So here's where it gets another interesting version on that is the Star Wars movies. So I started this whole thing talking about Princess Leia and how she was like such a great character. And then compare and contrast that with like the new Star Wars movies. So you've got this character Rey.
If you talk shit about Chewbacca, I'm coming through this mic and I'm coming at you.
Chewbacca's a dude.
Is he? Chewbacca's asexual. Come on, Dan. He's a furry. Furry rights.
I bet Han Solo knows. He knows the details. And
Han knows.
You're spending months flying around in a spaceship. I'm sure they, things got weird occasionally.
Yeah, dude. None of us ever seen Chewbacca pee. I don't know what's going on under that gun strap belt thing. It's not really. It's not okay. A Retta's crotch.
So anyway, you've got Rey's character, and the problem, and so it's not like Captain Marvel where on paper maybe the character is okay, like as it's written. It's just that it's played with this sort of woodenness in the character. In Star Wars, you got Daisy Ridley, who's a fantastic actress who has a lot of charisma. And she's very likable, So she's not off-putting at all. And then you watch the first movie and you're like, all right, well, this character, she's okay. She seems pretty fantastic. I wonder what her backstory is, and then as they get along, they give her no flaws. Like she's just completely perfect. She figures everything out in like 20 seconds. And like, she always knows the right thing. Every choice that she makes is right. She even when she has moments of struggle, turns out that she made the right choice and it's other people who are the problem. And it's like, I guess what they were probably thinking was like, well, we want to give little girls a role model. And I get that. I mean, my daughter she's like, oh, I want to watch the Star Wars with Rey in it. So like, I get that. But it's like, if you make them too perfect, then they're not believable as a human being. I mean, like Luke Skywalker had all these problems. Han Solo has all these problems, and like, they're great characters. And so,
hey man, Luke had to go to, was it Dagobah? Is that
Dagobah.
Where he would have lived, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that where he went?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Oh wow, my Star Wars. Wow, I feel good about that. So like he had to go and actually train. There was a sequence. There was a montage. There was like 45 minutes of a movie dedicated to that. Him getting his ass kicked by Yoda.
Yeah. Or even Natalie Portman's character. She was like a wonder kid. She was super smart. She was like a senator by the time she was like 18 or however old they were. So she was very strong and capable, but she also had problems. Like she fell in love with Anakin, who was an idiot.
That's true.
Like
she was more of a Leia protege, like type, a Leia type, up until she started making bad decisions.
Yeah. So
because like presumably Leia's like politician-y, rebel-y.
Yeah.
Yes.
But the fact that Natalie Portman falls in love with Anakin, whatever. Look, we're all stupid. We fall in love with the wrong people when we're 20 years old. That's still believable.
It's very believable.
Yeah. But the problem is that they were so afraid of, like, they had to make that point with Rey's character that they ruined what could potentially have been a very interesting character by making her too perfect, and then she's not relatable anymore. Then it just seems like she's just a superhero.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So, and then there's Laura Dern's character, Holdo. Remember from the second of the last trilogy?
The Admiral. Right? Yeah. She's an admiral in that movie.
And they intentionally made all the male characters in that movie idiots. Right. Which, granted, there are male idiots. I mean, sure, guys are stupid sometimes, but it's almost like they went out of their way to make them incompetent and make them all foolhardy. And then, like, all of the women in that movie were all perfect. Like Princess Leia always knew. She always said things that were like super wise. Laura Dern's character, like, she never raised her voice. She was always like stern, and she like had this great plan, and we're just supposed to accept it. Like, oh, okay, yeah, that was a great plan. And then when you think about the movie when you're driving home after, like, that was a stupid plan. Like, that was dumb. So it's like, but if you made the opposite, if you made a movie where all the male characters are perfect and all the women were idiots, that wouldn't fly. I mean, I wouldn't like that movie either. Okay, here's an example. Forrest Gump. Like Forrest
Ooh,
Gump,
wait
maybe.
on me.
Okay, well, okay.
I mean, Forrest Gump's a terrible movie, but like I want to talk shit about it, so let's do it.
Well, one of the reasons, I mean, Forrest Gump has a lot of problems
Mm-hmm.
as it pertains to this subject.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, yeah, interesting.
It makes women look. Jenny is a terrible person.
Oh yeah,
You
she
know,
gave Forrest AIDS. Let's just get that out there.
yeah, like
She died of
intentionally.
it. Yep.
You know,
Or
and she only
she tried.
she only came back to him after he made all this money and after she had no money. You know, she intentionally sleeps with him.
She manipulated a mentally deficient human being for her own selfish gain.
Right.
Let's be honest.
Yeah. And
She's a rapist.
the movie portrays it as like, oh, this is sweet. He finally, the movie portrays it like because he was so pure of heart
Right.
that he finally got the woman that because, being pure of heart will eventually win in the end. And she saw like, no, she didn't come back to him because she finally realized that he was pure
No,
of
she was
heart.
dying.
Yeah.
She had no one else.
It's so insulting to women. Like that's the only Forrest's mom. She's okay. Like because Sally Field. Like she kind of.
Yep.
You kind of. It's a complicated time. It was like the 50s or whatever. Like I guess
She took care of his education, Stan. She really did.
that's a morally questionable thing, but at least you get it. She's making choices. She's making agency for the sake of somebody else. But Jenny is just an all around horrible person.
There's not really that many other women in that movie, though.
Well, no, but it's
Right?
like
I mean, it all circles around Jenny. I agree. Jenny's awful.
yeah. And he never, here's the thing is that like, that could work if you took that same story. Now, granted, it was based on a book and the book was insane, but like, it would be a different movie. But if you had the point of the movie being Forrest getting past Jenny, like at the end of the movie, say the third act was different and Jenny comes back and she's like, we're going to maybe we'll be together, Forrest. And he's like, he says something here like, hey, you know what? I was happy without you. I learned that, I was chasing you this whole time. And that wasn't really, it's like,
I was
would've been
running
like,
after you, Jenny, but I was running from myself. That's my
something
Forrest
like
Gump.
that. That would have been a cool moment, because then she would have had to been like, oh yeah, that's a good point.
Green fades to black. Credits roll. Jenny dies alone and sad. Yeah.
They have like a montage of him shooting off into space. Which I think he does that in the book.
Elizabeth Taylor. Crazy. Oh, Forrest Gump had sex with like the hottest models from the 70s and 80s and 90s.
I
and
wouldn't
died
put
alone
I wouldn't put it
in
past that.
Hugh Hefner's grotto.
That whole movie is like, it's insulting to everybody. Like it's insulting it's insulting to people who are mentally disabled or even people who, he's not technically, legally, he's not, he's like just above the line or whatever. So it's insulting to
Forrest
people
Gump is retarded. There's no way to put that not bluntly.
So like it's insulting to that whole demographic. It's insulting to women. It's insulting to veterans.
Yep.
Because it turns like this veteran. I don't know. I guess they sort of portray it with the horror, like it's sort of realistic in the sense that like, yeah, kind of sucks sometimes, I guess, but and it makes it seem like he just happenstances into all of this good fortune. The way to make that movie would to make it more funny and like wacky and try to make it less sentimental. And you'd be like, all right, this movie is just insane or whatever. It's funny. Or to make it less like play it for jokes and make it more sentimental, like Rain Man or something. And then it would have felt like an actual human story. But the way it is it's like it's too sentimental to be a good comedy. And it's way too cynical and mean to be a dramatic movie. It just makes you feel.
I don't know what's up with Forrest Gump, but like just the general thought that one person is like the throughout thread from all of American history for like his whole life is just retarded and just so stupid.
Well, it's ridiculous. I guess what they were trying to say was that like, look at this great person who like, you don't need to be smart to be great. It's his character that is what made him great, but it's not though. If they wanted to say that, like it's being pure of heart and understanding what love is, and all those things that we would go, oh yeah, that's a great story. But the problem is that none of the good things that happen to him in the story happen because he's pure of character. They happen to him because he just happens to be at the right place at the right time.
Exactly.
And that's what's so stupid about it.
Well, I don't know, man. He somehow founded Apple. I forget how they even happened, but he was just part of the stock
Yeah.
buyout for Apple early on. He made a chunk of change. It's so stupid. But either way,
Yeah.
we've been going on for an hour and 10 minutes going on
Yeah.
here. All right.
I'm always down for talking about movies, but yeah.
That was fun. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm sorry, I'm the last person to talk about movies, which is probably a good thing. I'd like to hear the ideas, and you're bouncing off fresh ideas. Or a
I
fresh
could be
mind.
way off. People, if anybody listens to this who was like a cinephile, they might be like, "That's really misinformed." But
Well, I promise you, I will go. That doesn't make any sense to me. Can you explain
Sure.
that once or twice? But like, I don't know. I like talking about things that I'm not 100% versed in because it's interesting. That's fun.
yeah, maybe we can
I'm
do
not
an
100%
episode of.
versed in anything, by the way. But like,
We can do an episode about how bad the Tomorrow War is.
The Tomorrow War. Which one? What is
It's
that?
it's that Chris Pratt movie that just came out on Amazon.
Oh, okay.
It's like an alien invasion
Don't give me
movie.
more homework that I can't complete. I
it's-
didn't even
it's-
watch Mad Max Fury, whatever the hell it was.
No, well, that movie's great. You should get around to that.
I do want to watch it. I meant to, and I didn't get to it.
Yeah.
All right then. All right. Next Tuesday, back on it.
Yeah.
I think that'll work.
Right.
All right then. Well, we're out of here. Good night.
All right. We'll come up with something.
Obligatory ending the broadcast. Something to talk about till it ends, and we're gonna end it.
Yeah, there we